So that can bring us to the Titans here, moving over to Tennessee. And obviously they won the division last year. They even after Derrick Henry went down with that broken foot, they rallied, they played a lot of good team football. Didn't they set the record for most players on injured reserve last year?
Don't know.
I feel like that did happen and they still won their division and made the playoffs, which is pretty impressive. Like Mike Vrabel deserved coach of the year. I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah.
he won it. I think they put together a great season. That being said, I wasn't a fan of what they did in the offseason, and we can talk about that, but I think there's a lot of issues with this team. How do you feel about that? Or do you think the Titans are still going to be pretty contenders?
I I totally agree with what you're saying. Like they definitely didn't make the best decisions, but the
Mhm.
problem is last year, like they still somehow rallied and made the playoffs. And
Yeah.
like this is just a very well coached team as well. If Mike Vrabel doesn't get the recognition he deserves, like the Titans don't really do much with it. They make the playoffs, but then they don't really do anything.
Yeah.
But like this is a very well coached team, and it's weird because like even if like yes, I do agree that this team is not as strong as it could be. I don't think they're better than the Colts, and no matter how well coached they are, I don't think they will be better than the Colts. But I still feel like they might come second in this division.
I agree because I think the other two teams in this division. I mean, we'll talk about them next episode, but they're very young, very inexperienced. So I think the Titans do like they'll still be second in this division as long as everything goes correctly. But I think they're if they want to make the playoffs, everything has to go right, in my opinion. Like, I don't think they can afford a Derrick Henry injury again. I don't think they can afford any receivers to get hurt.
Yeah,
There's a lot of their defensive players. So we can get into it. We can start with the offense, I guess. What's your feeling about Ryan Tannehill right now? Because I was happy with his redemption story with the Titans, but then Arthur Smith left last year, and I think Ryan Tannehill showed that he's still a decent quarterback, but I think a lot of the reason he was playing as well as he was partly Arthur Smith's system, and I
mm,
think his decline, especially in that playoff game against Cincy, I think really cost the Titans, and that might have been why they drafted Malik Willis.
yeah. No, I definitely agree. I do think that there's been some questionable decisions, many questionable decisions made by our guy Tannehill,
Yeah.
and that's definitely why they drafted Malik Willis. Although the problem is that Malik Willis, like I know it's a preseason game, but he was just okay in his game too. So I don't know. I mean, Ryan Tannehill is just he's kind of iffy. And like as much as I want to root for Tannehill because like he was on the Dolphins and he had a
Right.
he had a good season there, towards the end of his career with us. Tannehill, I don't think he's ever really been like the greatest pure pocket passer. And I do think that losing Arthur Smith was like kind of like a big blow to that, and it kind of really exposed him again after he had some good success with the Titans when he got brought in originally.
I just think, and this is where we can talk about the other thing I have an issue, like trading AJ Brown as well. Like that's you're getting rid of Tannehill's main target that he's built up chemistry with. I think that's only going to hurt him more. And I personally don't see a world where Malik Willis starts this season. I
For
think they
sure.
kind of want to develop him,
Yeah.
but and I'm not making a case that they should start Malik Willis, but I just think that Tannehill, especially in this AFC that has so many good quarterbacks, like I think he's gonna stand out as just not good enough.
Yeah. I
Like I
agree.
think it can be an issue.
I think honestly there's a chance like Malik Willis starts some games at the end of the year if things aren't looking good for the Titans. Might as well throw him in,
Yeah,
see what happens. Quarterback's a bit of a weaker position for this team, along with a lot of this offense. Like this offense, I'm
I
not
know.
loving it.
I know. It's not good.
I'm not loving this offense. And quite frankly, not loving the defense either. But we're talking about the offense right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Derek, I mean, the only part of this team that I would say I have full confidence in is the running back
Yeah,
position.
of course. Of
I
course.
mean, you got Derrick Henry as a starter, one of the best running backs in the league right now, top three. And then you got Dontre Hillard, Hassan Hoskins, and Jordan Wilkins. Hassan Hawkins, who's a rookie, Hoskins, I don't know how you said that. Hassan. I'm just gonna say Hassan. He got
Okay.
drafted this year out of Michigan. I mean, he's a running back. It's weird, but it's pretty easy to find good running backs in the NFL. Um,
Yeah.
so like even these backups, I'd totally have faith in them, considering the fact that like last year, Donta Foreman came back into the league after
He was
being like
awesome.
out, I think, to the free agent. He came in, he played pretty well.
I would
So
have kept him if I was the Titans. I mean, that's a minor criticism, but even that, like I think they should have made sure to keep him as the backup because I thought he's really good.
I mean, I thought he's okay. I didn't think he was anything
I
amazing.
don't know, man. 500 yards in 9 games, like that's pretty good. He was doing it on good yards of carry. I don't know. I thought he was pretty powerful as a runner. I thought he was getting down the field pretty well.
He did, I'll give you that. Maybe they
He's
should have
not
brought him
Derrick
back.
Henry, of course, but as a backup, like I think the
I think
Panthers
that's
are lucky to have him.
I think that might be why. I think they're just really banking on the fact Derrick Henry's coming back, so they didn't need him.
True, true.
But actually, no, you're right. I do agree. I do think they should have brought him back. But
Yeah. Are you worried at all about Derrick Henry? He broke his foot, but it's not like he tore his ACL. Like I
um,
have confidence in Derrick Henry that he's gonna be all right. Like I don't know.
I don't want to be worried about him, but I
Yeah.
kind of am. And I remember we were talking about this during the season, and I made a take that came out kind of wrong, and I said something to the extent that kind of sounded like I said Derrick Henry's kind of injury prone. That's not what I meant to say. I know it's been one injury. What I
Yeah.
meant to say is that this might lead to him being more injury
That
prone
makes sense. Yeah.
because, especially with a running back of his size and his play style, a broken foot's not great
Hmm.
for him and his career like trajectory. But this is also Derrick Henry we're talking about, and this guy's a monster.
Yeah.
Created in a lab, and it's entirely possible that this broken foot is just some stupid anomaly and nothing happens. Honestly, I prefer that because I love Derrick Henry. Big fan of him. I'd wish the Dolphins had drafted him over Kenyon Drake. I'm still
Oh,
mad at
I
that.
didn't know that happened, but
I
condolences for that.
wait, I'll double check that, but I'm pretty sure we drafted Kenyon Drake over
Let's
him.
just go with it. Let's just go with it.
Regardless,
Yeah.
we should have traded up for Derrick Henry then, if that's the case. But
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there. Derrick Henry, I hope he comes back. I love him. The guy's great. And I
Well,
really hope he comes back.
yeah, I mean he's awesome. I got Derrick Henry on my dynasty team. He's an awesome player. Like he's a dominant force when healthy. But I think you make a good point. The power runner that he is, an injury like that can affect him. We haven't really seen him. He did come back last year, but he didn't come back until the playoffs. So he
Mm-hmm.
just got thrust right back in. And then once the Titans were down to the Bengals, like they didn't even want to run that much. So he didn't really get to fully come back. I think if he came back late in the regular season, maybe we'd have a better idea of what to
Yeah.
expect.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Like this, we'll get to the receivers in one sec, but I think the fact that the receivers are a little weak suggests to me that they're going to continue running Derrick Henry into the ground, and
Yeah.
that could hurt him long term, injuries wise, because this could be like he might get his most carries yet this year, in my opinion.
Their top three right now is Robert Woods, Traylon Burks, and Nick Westbrook-Ikine.
Yeah.
That's not promising.
No, no.
So, I mean, Robert Woods is he's a solid veteran, but he's questionable right now. He's got like an injury
He
going on.
came off. He just tore his ACL last year. Yeah.
Yeah, Traylon Burks is a rookie and he's having problems with like his asthma and like his
Yeah.
like just conditioning as a whole. And like Nick Westbrook-Ikine, no disrespect to him because he's actually a pretty solid third wide receiver.
Yeah. He
But
broke
like
out last year. He did.
yeah, but like the problem is that he needs more support from his one and two. I don't like. I mean, like, yeah, they also drafted Kyle Phillips, who I think will be good. Obviously they drafted Des Fitzpatrick last year,
Yeah.
but Des Fitzpatrick, I mean, he got cut last year,
Right. And he had to
so
come back.
that's
They
not.
brought him back towards the end of the year, but yeah, he was off the team for a bit. You're right.
He was a fourth round draft pick. That's not good.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the thing. This is the theme, and this is more of a theme on the defense as we'll get to. But even here, there are a lot of young guys, unproven guys that need to step up. Like Robert Woods is the wide receiver one, I guess, in this offense, and
Yeah.
he's coming off an ACL tear. And like I like Robert Woods, don't get me wrong, but I also think a lot of his success was tied to Sean McVay. Like I think without Sean McVay, he's what he was on Buffalo, solid guy. But I don't know if he's, especially at this age and coming off the injury, I don't think he can replicate that what he's did in the Rams with the Titans, in my opinion.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Yeah,
And
and
I guess there's a world where they expect Burks to be the number one because like they basically traded AJ Brown and then immediately replaced him with Burks. So I guess they see him as the replacement. But
yeah.
like I think it was so stupid that they didn't pay AJ Brown. Like AJ Brown even made a tweet comparing him to other receivers in his class like DK, McLaurin, him, and Debo Samuel. All four of those guys got big extension. He's like, I'm the only one that I didn't get with the team that drafted me. And I think the Titans are going to regret that a lot. Like, I think AJ Brown's a good player.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think it's kind of saying they should have done both. They should have kept AJ Brown and drafted Traylon Burks, but
Yeah, I mean, it would have helped. Yeah.
that one's up
'Cause-
to them.
'Cause they
Um,
wanted Julio to be the wide receiver too. Like they were trying to get more receivers, and that didn't work out, of course. But I can see the argument for Burks and AJ Brown together. Like I actually can see that argument, but I don't know.
yeah,
I just don't like their moves they made. I don't know.
yeah, no, it's not promising,
Oh,
but
even the tight ends, Austin Hooper, I used to like a lot, but I think he's getting older. He's not the most athletic tight end. I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. It's very complicated. Although they did draft, I don't know how to say his name,
Yeah,
Okonkwo.
Alcantara. Yeah,
I think he's solid. I think he's definitely it was the right decision to draft him after selecting Austin Hooper. But I mean, tight ends, there's not much to say about because like I mean, like it's Austin Hooper. Austin
yeah.
Hooper's solid, I guess. Jeff Swaim's solid, I guess. Okonkwo's a
Right.
rookie.
Yeah.
Hopefully, he seems very athletic. So
What about this O line? I mean, I don't like this offensive line either. This is another problem for Derrick Henry. I mean, I will say they have two highly drafted tackles, like Dylan Reduns, I believe is how you say it. He was a second round pick last year. And they have a third
Braden's
round pick this year, Nicholas Petit Frere. I don't know how to say either
Pete
of those
Freer,
guys'
I
names.
guess
I'll
how
be
you say
honest,
that.
like I don't know much about him until I looked at this depth chart. But
Yeah.
those are two young tackles that they're going to hope opposite Taylor Luan, who's getting older, that they can hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like Taylor Lewan's been hurt a lot. Ben Jones is still there. I mean, that's good. Like he's a longtime Titan. He's a good player. But Aaron Brewer stepping in to replace Roger Saffold at guard. I don't know much about him either. I just don't really like this offensive line. I think that's another unit that's gotten worse.
Yeah, no, honestly, I think they made a bad choice with letting Roger Saffold go.
To the
Um,
Bills, no less, a rival, like another
yeah,
team competing for the AFC.
yeah, no. I mean, Nate Davis is okay. He's also
Yeah,
been there for a few years now, but
right.
yeah, this O line, it's not great. I mean, they got like, obviously they drafted Radins last year, and they obviously have Petit Freer this year. Um, I don't know. I mean, like Jamarco Jones is okay as a backup, but like I don't know. There's just a
Oh, he
lot.
hasn't played much. I knew the name, but I looked up his stats. He's only played like in 6 or 7 games in his career. Like I recognized it, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
this team. I agree. I don't love everything this team's been doing. I think O line's definitely like I don't have a lot to say about this O line other than like it's bad.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of young guys that they hope are going to be good, but there's too many of that on this O line, I think.
Yeah, I don't have much to say about this O line.
And hey, prove us wrong. I mean, I'm not criticizing these players. I'm just saying they're not names. This is a team that prioritizes the run. They style themselves as a running team, and they have a lot of unproven guys on the O line. They're just hoping it
Yeah,
works.
yeah,
So I don't know. Like, hey, prove us wrong. No problem. I mean, I'm not rooting against these guys. It's just I'm just calling it like I see it. I don't know. And looking at the defense now, like we mentioned the defense before, another unit that is relying on a lot of young guys is this secondary. And Kevin Byard is awesome, one of the
yeah.
best safeties in the league. No
Hmm.
criticism for him. I mean, he made the first team All Pro last year. He's awesome. But at corner, Caleb Farley, their first round pick last year, he dealt with injuries coming into the draft, and then he tore his ACL last year, halfway through the season. So they're going to hope he can bounce back and fulfill his potential. Christian Fulton is
Trisha
the other
Fulton.
corner here, and he's pretty solid. I think he had a good year last year, but I don't know if I like him as a cornerback one necessarily. And then they have two rookies in Roger McCreary and Elijah Molden, who I think have potential and could be good even as rookies, but once again, this is a group that has a lot of young players. Even Kristen Fulton is only in his third year in the league, although he has proven himself to a degree. But
Mhm.
what do you think of this secondary? I mean, I think it's another unit that I don't love.
Well, their secondary, I think. Here's my thing. I do get where you're coming from, but I also think like the secondary has the potential to be good because obviously, like we were talking about Caleb Farley and Elijah Molden, these were two young guys drafted last year. They still have a chance to develop.
You're right. Elijah Molden isn't a rookie this year. Only Roger McCreary. You're right.
Roger McCreary is drafted this
Yeah.
year. He came out of Auburn. He seems like a solid player. He's got a chance to develop. They're starting safety duo of Hooker and Byard. That's not a bad safety duo. And Fulton's pretty good on his own.
Yeah.
So I think this secondary, as it stands, is weak. But if these young players like Farley, McCreary, and Molden develop, it's a chance to be good. Because the problem is Byard and Fulton and Monty Hooker are the only like known quantities on this team.
Yeah.
Everyone else, like Farley and Molden, were injured some of last year, and McCreary's a rookie. And these are the top guys I would say go out. And Theo Jackson as well. They drafted Theo Jackson. Can't forget about Theo Jackson. So if you include him, that's like these four young guys that they're kind of like
Yeah.
focusing on, hoping they develop. So as it stands, this is a weak secondary. But if those four young guys can develop and play really well, I think it could be a good secondary.
Yeah, and that's a fair point because all these guys have the pedigree. I mean, Molden a third round pick, McCreary a second, Fulton a second, and Farley, of course, the first round pick out of Virginia Tech last year. Theo Jackson, I believe I saw his name. Wasn't he around the fifth or sixth round? He's a little later.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't know as much of him, but I did see his name. But yeah, they definitely have the pedigree. So, like you mentioned, like they can prove themselves. I'm just saying my major point with the Titans that I think you agree with me, as you said, is just they're relying on a lot of youth at a lot of positions. And maybe they're just confident in their front office. I mean, the front office, John Robinson's proven to be a good GM. I'm not criticizing his past performance, but I'm just saying for a team that has been as good and consistent as it's been the last few years, I don't love what they're doing across the board. So, but I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the secondary. But what
Yeah.
about the front seven? How do you feel about that? I mean, they do have some pretty good players like Jeffrey Simmons, like Harold Landry, but I think there's also some issues at other spots.
Yeah. I don't hate the front seven, but I don't love it either.
Yeah.
I think the notable players on here are Simmons, Landry, and Zach Cunningham and Bud Dupree. And even then Bud Dupree is kind of like, eh.
Well,
And
yeah.
like,
I mean, he's coming off now. The case for Bud Dupree is that the thing a lot of people say is that's the year after they come back from like an ACL or an Achilles, like a big injury like that. That's when they bounce back. Like Bud Dupree tore his ACL with the Steelers, signed with the Titans for big money, and like wasn't that effective last year. Dealt with the ramifications of that injury. So
mhm.
this like the case would be that this is the year he bounces back. But I don't really think he showed much. Just generally, even considering that injury, I don't really think he showed much last year with the Titans. But their hope would be that him and Harold Landry can form a really good pass rushing tandem.
It has the potential. That's the problem. That's the problem with a lot of this team. There's potential,
Yeah.
but like I don't.
Yeah, right. Like this isn't youth as much as it's banking on a guy coming back from an injury, but it
Yeah,
is another question mark. Like it's just the truth.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I mean, you mentioned Zach Cunningham. This is a guy who had I think 160 tackles 2 years ago at the Texans, and they
Yeah.
released him halfway through last year. He signed with the Titans. I
Mhm.
think he's a good player, but he also kind of reminds me of Blake Martinez when he was in Green Bay in that
Hmm.
good player, but maybe the tackles kind of mislead you to think he's like this dominant stopper. Like a casual fan might look at Shaquille Leonard and Zach Cunningham and say, like, these guys are both making a ton of tackles. But I would say, like, there's more to it than that. I think Zach Cunningham's a solid player, but I wouldn't say he's a blue chip linebacker like a Shaquille Leonard, a Darius Leonard, whatever you want to call him.
I don't. I just. I don't. I totally agree. I just don't love what a lot of this team is doing. I mean, they got Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah, Jefferson is really
Also,
good. He's really good. Like
he's
he's a
holding it down. Harold Landry.
career
That's.
presence.
I'm a big Harold Landry fan because he came out of Boston College, which is where my sister went to school. So I'm a big fan of Harold Landry. But I just. I don't know. I do agree though. I think this team. I don't know. I just don't love what the team's doing, and I don't know.
Like another guy that I'm not too familiar with is their starting defensive tackle TR Tart. Like, are you familiar with him? Like, I don't want to disparage
No,
him.
I was gonna mention that. I was like,
Yeah,
I don't know who this guy is. Not to be
yeah,
mean to him because I don't know
yeah.
him.
It's
But
just,
like,
I mean, if he
I don't
earned a starting spot, that's great. But I don't know, did they just not put the resources into getting a good defensive tackle? Like,
I don't know. I mean, he must be starting for some reason. He has to be at
yeah,
least okay.
yeah.
Let me see if I can find some. Okay, yeah. So,
I mean, they do have the Nico
um,
Autry, who sneakily had, I believe, 9 sacks last year, so he's also pretty solid. But
um,
that's really all they got is Simmons and Danico Autry. Just when I look at the Colts, they have a ton of good veterans, established veterans, good players, and I just like where they're going. I think Matt Ryan is better than Ryan Tannehill. Like I just think the Colts are a better team, and we can get into the schedule to wrap up here. Like similar teams to the Colts, obviously, that they're playing, but I don't like their schedule as much. I mean, in terms of how it's structured, I mean, they got the Giants week 1 on the road for the Bills. The Colts don't have to play the Bills because the Titans have the first place schedule here. They're
Yeah.
playing the Raiders, visiting the Colts, visiting the Commanders. They got a week 6 bye, a little early on the bye there. Then they play the Colts again coming off the bye, which I guess could help them because they're coming off a bye, but visiting the Texans, visiting the Chiefs, home for Denver. Another team the Colts don't have to play is my Packers right here. They're on the road for Green Bay. Then they play the Bengals too, visiting the Eagles, Jacksonville, Chargers, Houston, Dallas, and then at Jacksonville to wrap up. Those are 3 teams in the Bengals, the Packers, and the Bills. The Colts just don't have to play because they have the second place schedule.
I think they do play the Chargers. Both teams play the Chargers, but I think the Chargers
They
are
play that
underrated.
entire division, yeah.
They're a pretty good team too.
Yeah, they are. The Eagles, both teams play, but the Titans are on the road for the Eagles. The Colts are at home. So
Yeah.
I think there's just a lot of things here that I just don't like for the Titans. I just think a lot of things didn't go their way in a lot of different ways. And part of it's their fault. And I don't know. I just don't love how they went about their offseason. That's how I would describe it.
No, I agree. It's not. It's just I don't know.
I would say if I had to pick, what would your record prediction be? I'm leaning like 7-10 here, looking at the schedule.
Honestly, I want to say like 6 and
6 and
11.
11. My
I
only thing
don't.
with that is like they still play Jacksonville and Houston and the Giants, but I don't know. Jacksonville could steal one on the Titans. Like I wouldn't put it past them if
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence plays well enough. So I
No.
don't know. I'm gonna say 7-10. That's my record prediction.
Let me see. Let me see what their Vegas odds are supposedly
Okay.
supposed to be. Wow. The Vegas odds have them at over under 9.5.
Really? What are the Colts? Can you see that?
Yeah, let me pull up the Colts one. That's absurd. Colts? That dude, a 9.5 is insane.
Yeah, nine and a half. I will definitely pound the under on that one.
The
Like,
Colts are also at an over under 9.5.
yeah. So you give me over Colts, under on the Titans easily. Like, I think it's just
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know any Titans fans at all. Like, I'm just where I mean we live in I live in Pennsylvania. Like, I don't run into Titans fans. I would love to know like what most Titans fans like. Is their outlook positive? Like on this team, I just feel like they're just not as good. Like I think it's
Yeah.
just that simple. I don't know.
Hmm.
So I'm glad we're in agreement, though. I wasn't sure if that was going to be a controversial topic, but I think we're both in agreement that this Titans team is going to be pretty mediocre. But like we said, Mike Rabel proved himself to be a very good coach that can rally the troops. So maybe that's what we're underrating about this squad. But at the same time, like we said, I think injury concerns, depth concerns, right? That's what we're worried about.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I just think like, yeah, Mike Vrabel's a great coach. I do think he has a great coaching staff working with him. It's just the problem is that I don't love the personnel decisions in terms of players.
Yeah.
But then again, the Tennessee Titans, they always seem to kind of find their way into the playoffs. They kind of make it work. They kind of figure something out. So like I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe these things work out for them.
Yeah.
But as it stands, I don't love it.
Yep. I agree. I think that's a great way to put it. So we'll have to see if this works out for the Titans, if it plays out in the way they want to see. Maybe we just don't see the vision, Mike. Maybe we just don't see it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's going to wrap up this edition of the Fan Committee. Thank you guys for listening. It was a lot of fun talking about these two AFC South teams. So next episode, not to bore you to death, but we're going to be talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans. So stay tuned for that. And other than that, thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day.